Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the tier list, the greatest Scooby-Doo movie tier list in the history of the Scooby-Doo fandom. I am JB, and with me, of course, is Mark Marsh.
Thanks for having me. And yes, it's going to be a good one because this is probably the best part of the tier list. This,
Yeah,
this
this
right
might
here.
be our
Yes.
last episode together ever because we'll fall out dramatically over the Loch Ness Monster movie, but we're not quite there yet because the first one that we're going to be tearing up is The Legend of the Vampire, which is one that holds a bit of nostalgia for me, but it may not live up to exactly what I remember. So, as was with the first episode, I think to avoid any inherent bias, we'll take turns on who's giving their opinion first, on who isn't. So, I guess I'll kick us off. This movie was one of my comfort films growing up. It was one that I'd watch quite a lot with my limited amount of DVD sets. I don't think it's aged particularly well. I think both this and the Monster of Mexico, it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but for completely controversial reasons. I'm really not a fan of Heather North's portrayal of Daphne in these movies because she is a legend, but I just feel like whatever was happening with her at the time, unfortunately, I kind of feel like it really shows in the performance and it kind of takes me out for quite a bit of it. And overall, I think the art style in general, for all it's a lot more classic, I kind of just feel like it's bland. Like I find myself revisiting these old ones and thinking, I really wish we could see what the Yahweh Yahoo looks like in the Mystery Incorporated art style or something like
Yeah.
that. So I think my gut instinct, and I've changed mediocre to midstory ink or midstory. I think I'd put it above Boo Brothers and above Reluctant Werewolf. My gut instinct is telling me it belongs directly behind Cyber Chase, but what's your kind of thoughts?
Yeah. So I thought the film was all right. The bit that I love about it was the hex girls.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most memorable bit that I like because when I first watched it, it took me by surprise when I saw them on there. First time watching it. Because I didn't think we were going to get hex girls this straight away in another movie. Because straight after what was this one after? This was after Cyber Chase.
Cyber Chase, yeah.
So it was like Witch's Ghost was the one before that, and then I think around this time, Legend of the Vampire was still it's it came out a year after What's You Scooby Doo?
I think it was maybe the year of. My mind's
Because
telling me it's either 2001,
2002
2002,
was
or
I
2003.
think 2002 was What's You Scooby Doo. I could be wrong
Yeah.
because I think it ended in 2005. And I think it came out in the second season, which I think the Hex Girls were introduced into the third season. I think that plays out right. The first season of What's New Scooby Doo. I could be wrong on that one. So it's like their second movie, but I still thought their performance was great because it added more, nostalgia to it. Seeing them back on there, especially watching it now. I would say probably mediocre, but did you say you put it below Right on Werewolf?
I think I put it just in between, like just below Cyber Chase, just above Reluctant Werewolf. Because I think the thing that carries it, and maybe this is a bit unfair because of like the timing and stuff, but the soundtrack I will probably listen to 25 times more than I'll watch the film again. So the soundtrack I think really carries it. You know, that hey, get away, yeah. And that gotta go to the rocks. I find myself singing that just at random now. It's just the movie itself, it just feels a bit bland to me now.
Yeah, 'cause I say it's like on par with Right on Werewolf, but I wouldn't really say like Cyber Chase. I say it's just below Cyber Chase.
Mhm.
So
It
yeah,
seems like
it's a mediocre,
we're
but I think it's right at the
agreeing,
bottom.
really,
Yeah,
which I wasn't expecting. It's a good start. So,
it's
Legend of the Vamp is there in Midstory. So, this is good because we're agreeing quite early on, which I think is always helpful, especially considering the stuff that's going to be coming up.
yes, and because the next one's Monster of Mexico, and if anyone saw my top 10 worst Scooby-Doo's list, both Monster of Mexico and Loch Ness Monster were 10 and 9. for that list. If I've redone it now, it wouldn't be on the list because there's worse Scooby-Doo stuff out there now that could replace them. But at the time, it was on the list. But I still stay strong with Monster of Mexico as I didn't like it.
See,
I
here's the thing.
didn't like
I
the
like
lore.
that.
I didn't like how they presented the lore, as they tried to make it more boogeyman like tale that you would tell to a kid, and that's not the whole lore. So if you look at the lore, that it doesn't really add up. Same as the Loch Ness monster, the lore doesn't really make sense. It's just a tale that people make up that changes from person to person. But if you look at the history of the Chupacabra or the Loch Ness monster, it's way different than how they're trying to portray it. So that's why I didn't like Monster of Mexico, because to me, it's a nice tourist spot if you want to go there. I just feel like it was an insult to the whole myth beyond the creature.
Yeah,
It felt really
short.
It didn't really feel long as a mystery. I feel like it all developed way too fast. By the time they got there to where the mystery picks up, it all happened way too fast for a typical Scooby-Doo mystery. And I feel like most stuff they could have showed off about Mexico and the culture and that was wasted on the creature. So I feel like they didn't give audience enough chance to take the stuff that they want to show in. And that's why I wouldn't put it as a Scooby don't, because that would mean don't watch it. I wouldn't say don't watch it. I would still say watch it, but I say it's still like mediocre, but at the very bottom, the real bottom.
See, that's interesting because this is again, it's these two. It always comes back to the same thing. I'm not mad on Heather North's performance in it. The art style to me again, such a gorgeous location, like in Mexico, and they just kind of make it look like desert with a couple of villas in it. Like, really does it a disservice. But the soundtrack again, like, it's a bit more difficult for me to sing along just because I don't know like all like the different lyrics in Spanish. But like, again, I'll just be in a random situation and I'll just be like, when you say Viva, I say Mexico. Hey, like it's such a nostalgic kick for me, both those two, where I feel like if I didn't grow up watching them, maybe I even would edge it towards that more Scooby Don't setting. But I don't know, I have a bit of fun with this one. Um, sometimes I have more fun with this over Legend of the Vampire, but I think because of the Hex Girls in that one, the more, I guess, recognizable to me Australian setting, it kind of ages a bit worse. I would put it on, I'm tempted to just put it directly under Legend of the Vampire because I feel like I'd watch it before I watch Reluctant Werewolf again. Same with Boo Brothers. But again, it's just that potential. What the story that they could have had with the Chupacabra versus the Bigfoot thing that we actually got.
It just like I feel like they missed out on a golden opportunity. And it's the same for the Loch Ness monster, where like there was so much a proper history. If you actually go there, you could see how much has been ruined by false tourists now. Like if you actually went to the local libraries, looked at the myths yourself, and actually spoken to people who are from generations that have been passed down, so you can hear different stories and tales, and it envelops so much different than what people believe the story is. And I understand as a kids show, you want to make it kid friendly as possible, but at the same time, if you're doing something history accurate about a real myth, sometimes you have to be very accurate to that myth. If it's going to scare some kids, then that's the that's the risk when you take a tale as strong as that, and then if you try and fluff it up, there, what are you trying to accomplish? I remember Are You Afraid of the Dark? Still a kids/teen show, but it was scary to watch. Same as Goosebumps, because they knew the risk, they knew what they were doing. But with this, I feel like they just took a tale and span it as a monster villain to some sort of scheme. But at the same time, like you could have done the real myth. You could have done that as terrifying as possible and done a guy in a costume, but also teach people about, the true tales rather than this false one that you want to put ahead. So I'll say at the bottom as well, below Legends of the Vampire, B.
The thing that edges that makes this a lot worse to me compared to Loch Ness Monster is when you think about the Loch Ness monster, I think you're right. They definitely could have taken it in another direction because of the historical, sightings and the debunking of the Loch Ness
Yeah,
monster and Nessie or the hunts that they do. There's definitely a lot more that they could have done. But I think from a kid's perspective, say if you're a kid in a Western culture, maybe even an American kid, and they've watched that movie, you go to them and you ask them what is the Loch Ness monster? They will tell you it's a sea monster that supposedly lives in Loch Ness. Now, that's very dumbed down, very simplified, but I feel like they don't have any part of the full story, but that's kind of what it is. But you go, you'd say a more westernized child watches Monster of Mexico, that you ask them what's El Chupacabra, and they will directly quote Velma, it's Mexico's Bigfoot, which it absolutely isn't. And that's the thing.
yeah,
I can deal with a kid medium watering down a topic. I can deal with it not giving you the full story to kind of make it more palatable. But when it's actually spreading false misinformation about another culture, which was what
yeah,
Monster of Mexico does, I kind of feel like that's too much of a stink to the movie where like I know, look, I've got some ethnic heritage, but I can't speak any other languages apart from English, and unless you count swearing in Punjabi. So I'm very much westernized. I grew up thinking that El Chupacabra was like Bigfoot, but in Mexico,
yeah.
which is not the case.
But
And
it's
so
not the case,
I think
no.
a lot of people, a lot of kids would have had that same impression. So that's why I kind of edge it down. It's just I think it has to be definitely below Legend of the Vampire, but I don't
Yes.
know if it's above Reluctant Werewolf. I feel like it is, but then based upon what I said, I'm not sure.
I'll say it's below Legend of Vampire, but I don't think it's above Reluctant Werewolf. Because Reluctant Werewolf wasn't based on anything myth, it was all its own story. So it wasn't actually telling you a lie, it was just telling you its own variation of what if. It's probably the only scrappy movie that I like watching, Reluctant Werewolf, because I could tolerate that character more in that one. But it's just like it's done so different to how it's all done now. And I guess you could say it's like dark as well, Reluctant Werewolf. But I don't see Monster of Mexico dark where it should be. It should at least have some creepy music while you tell a tale, not colorful rainbows and like it's just a Bigfoot, but in Mexico, it's like, but it's not though. Bigfoot.
And even
Okay.
then, like for all I like the music in it, I do question what the need was to constantly use the old 1969 score like beats because even when it's trying to be creepy, a lot of you just thinking, "Oh, it's the old score." You're not thinking, "Oh, I'm meant
Yeah.
to be scared now." So, I think I'd put it below Reluctant Werewolf, but I think personally above Boo Brothers. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Monster of Mexico. Okay. Oh gosh, it's my turn again. Which one is this? Oh no, is this the one?
Yeah, it's Loch Ness.
Oh no. Is this the okay? So the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster movie. This is, I guess I'll kickstart again. I'll like swing the pendulum onto my perspective. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for this one, which is why I think I know that my love for it, or not love, but my liking to it, isn't kind of as skewed in that. I know Millie grew up on it, and it was one that meant a lot to her. I think I saw it relatively recently-ish, I like it, I think the setting of Scotland, from my perspective, is always going to be a little bit more boring just because it's almost like, where is Scotland? Where are the Scooby Gang now? Oh, it's like a couple of hours up the road or something. It will always intrigue me less compared to a setting like America, even like standard America. So it kind of points down for that. I just feel like, again, the music in it I absolutely love, like the first chase music where they're being chased along the castle. I want to be able to download that and own it on CD record. Like that is S tier for me. And I also really do appreciate how it brought back Gray as Daphne, along with, Casey Kasem, Matthew Lillard. Like, it's my definitive cast. I'll say that much. The whole What's New cast is my definitive cast. So I like the vibe from that angle. And I'm trying to think about criticisms because I'm trying to be fair. Because even when I did the review on it, there were some things that I thought were a bit inconsistent. So, for instance, that whole thing where there was two Loch Ness monsters, one was fake. I can get that, but then one's revealed to be that van, like a modified version of the van, and yet the tire tracks weren't discovered until when it was convenient and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know. I like this one. If it was my own tier list, I think I'd put it comfortably below Alien Invaders and above Ghoul School. But we can compromise.
I think
So what's your
I think
thoughts?
when I did my tier list, I put it as C. So it was just below B when I did mine.
Hmm.
But this tier list is done slightly different because C don't watch basically, Scoob don't, and I think like Swamp Gas is pretty much like in the toilet before it's even begun. But it's just like I wouldn't say I wouldn't not watch it, but it's not something I would actually want to watch because I don't really go back to it as much as I should. I feel like I've only watched it a selected few times since owning it on DVD, and this came out like in 2004. So it's like during the third season of What's New Scooby-Doo. And it's just come back to the whole bit. But when I watch it now, I don't need to watch because there's so many episodes on some sort of sea creature, whether it's in Scotland or any other parts of open water. There's always a mystery involving the sea monster. I feel like underwater shots aren't really that appealing in Scooby Doo. I feel like you can make some scenery shots nice, but when you want the gang underwater, it's many things I just find very wrong with it. And one of it is when they talk underwater. Okay, it's say you have a microphone. It doesn't sound like you got a microphone. It just sounds like you're talking like me and you are right now. It's impossible because sound don't travel underwater. So it's like if you don't have a lucky headset, no one's gonna hear you. It's like me being in a soundproof room. You ain't gonna know what I'm saying unless there's a radio. But they miss out on key details like that. And even then, how can you see clearly underwater? Especially when you go down that far at depth and that, like you're gonna reach some darkness where a flashlight isn't gonna cut it, and then apparently you can illuminate like you can see regularly like I do now. It's like it's a totally different environment. Maybe if you're close to the very top, you could probably see, below you. But if you're going further down to the depths now, you're getting more and more darker. Your visibility's poor. It's like driving without no lights on. You ain't gonna see anything. So like some of those bits, I feel like they didn't really pay much to detail. And you got the Loch Ness as well. It's like if you are rich enough to build a mechanical robot of a Loch Ness monster, what's the point of scaring people in the lake? You're rich. You have all the money to build that. I feel like you lost more money building that for some scheme, because if you had the money to build that, do you really need whatever you're doing? Really? You're telling me you couldn't buy the rights or go down some legal route? When you're rich, you can make anything happen. Money, you can buy people off, get the good lawyers and do it that way. You probably save more than the scheme that you've done. And when you do get arrested for it, that's it. Your credibility down the toilet. I know. Every time I watch it, I find more problems with it. I'm not saying a lot of this Monster Law isn't bad. I quite enjoy the Law Tale, but like Jack the Ripper and that, it's fascinating to hear about myths and legends and stuff like that. But I don't know, with that movie bit, I feel like the TV shows did better than the actual movie did, and that really bothers me because the movie should have been more high value. It should explain more history to the audience, but I feel like the TV episodes told the audience more about myths and legends. If that makes sense.
A little bit. I mean, I think there's some things where it's kind of like obviously the one about if you're rich enough to build that, which would cost a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
That's millions. But then again, it's kind of like how much of a minus can that be in this franchise where that's going to be a common theme in countless other movies, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
I kind of feel like there's so many
because the thing as
instances
well, it's like
where
that
that's
thing can move
applicable.
freely like an actual animal. And when you take it off there, it's just like a mini sub or whatever. And it's like, how did you build it? And you built it like Tommy's dad built the reptile machine. That's to me. It was obviously it's like the reptile. Like Stu Pickles was the one who designed that because it works underwater, and it shouldn't, but it did. So when I watched that, I feel like it's Stu just is the genius behind it. Because when you take off the whole suit and that, it's like there's no way the weight would function. The amount of power you would need to keep in the same because you're going to sink straight to the bottom, and you're going to need a lot of power just to get that thing off the ground. You're going to make a lot. You're going to notice it a lot trying to keep that afloat. And I feel like, in a real sense, way, it's not going to work.
Oh, that's true,
It's not going to work.
but
But
then, do we put Zombie Island in? Do we mark that down for having a talking dog? You know what I mean? Like, it kind of gets a bit. How
yeah,
much logic can we put into this franchise where there's a dog that's, cross-dressing, standing on hind legs, running around? Like, it's kind of a bit like, where do we draw the line? We've got a talking dog.
well,
Are
you
we
can
meant to
train
then
dogs to stand
say,
on 2 feet. I've seen on Britain's Got Talent walking dogs. I don't know. I guess you could put a dress on them, but I don't think they can talk. Parrots, yes.
parrots? That would be a good one. So, you know what I mean, though? It's a bit like with this wacky world of Scooby Doo, it's not as wacky as say the Looney Tunes. Like no one's
No.
dropping anvils on each other. It's not like Tom and Jerry where there's a piano getting thrown at someone and then the keys or their teeth. Like it's not that wacky and zany. But I feel like there's enough there's enough cartoonish leeway in a lot of the old series and the new series where I can kind of go, okay, I
But
can suspend my disbelief somewhat for some of this stuff.
I have noticed a trend with Scooby-Doo villains. They're all too smart for their own good, but in the weirdest way possible. So if you take a look at every other villain in Scooby-Doo, they go through a lot of effort to make their schemes work. Like you got to really think outside the box, like you're trying to steal a bank or something. But like Funhouse Rob the robot, that robot from the Funhouse episode. The guy built that just to scale an amusement park. I feel like if you're a genius to build that, you could have sold that and made billions.
You could be like Tony
You
Stark
could,
as
and
well.
you did it for the insurance scam. Like that's like you're so smart, but you're dumb at the same time. And that's every other villain. The Space Kook, same situation. Built that nice suit. It was great. Could have invested, made more money doing it a legit way than what you were doing. Loch Ness Monster. It's like they all have these schemes that doesn't really benefit them well because they could have made loads of money doing it that way, but you didn't.
I
It's
guess
just like,
then, just wrapping up because I kind of feel like we could be debating for quite a long time. Where is your instinct telling me to put it? And I'll kind of tell you where my instinct is telling me to put it. And maybe we just need to like chop it down the middle.
so I want to put it in B, mediocre.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say it's C because I don't think it deserves a Scoob Don't.
Where would you
Because
place it in mid story or like?
I want to say it's above Legend of the Vampire for sure, and it's definitely above Monster of Mexico. So I feel like it has to be above them. I want to say still below Reluctant Werewolf, but on par with Boo Brothers.
See, I would kind of like to put it so hmm. So if we've got Boo Brothers at the back and Monster of Mexico just ahead of that, would you want that to be just below Monster of Mexico?
I say just put it above Monster of Mexico.
But see, so I want it to be just behind Ghoul School. So where's that middle ground? Where's the compromise there? So how many spaces are
Because
of it? One, two, three. There's three above it. I want it to be four above it. So does it go behind Cyber Chase? If we're splitting it right down the middle,
Then put it below Cyber Chase. Yeah.
So I really do want to rename that category, but I will do that.
There's many more in bees, which many people will have to take in consideration because bees, bee I always feel like is the middle ground.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot that's going to be in the middle, which is why I kind of should have banked on maybe naming it something that isn't too
Yeah.
negative. It's more neutral, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I do think that the placing does break my heart. I mean, again, really, I think I would be very happy with this tier list if Cyber Chase and Loch Ness were just bumped up a notch to How Groovy, but in that same order. But we'll work on that. We'll kind of build things up as we go, or maybe not. Because I feel like that we've got my perfect tier list here.
Which one did you want
It's
in How
just those
Groovy?
categories. Just bumping Cyber Chase and Loch Ness up to How Groovy, but the same spots, if that makes sense. So Cyber Chase still behind Ghoul School, Loch Ness still behind Cyber
See,
Chase.
I can understand Cyber Chase, but Loch Ness Monster is not How Groovy.
Cyber Chase.
Cyber Chase, I could see at the bottom of the A category for How Groovy, but I don't see Loch Ness Monster being an A category.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that, you know. You put Cyber Chase the back of B, Loch Ness top of C. I wouldn't mind that, you know.
Yeah, so move Cyber Chase to the How Groovy category.
Okay, I'm quite happy with that.
And
I'm
then
quite happy with that.
Loch Ness Monster is still B category, but it sits
Yeah.
under Cyber Chase.
Okay. Okay. I think that's pretty good. That wasn't as much of a battle as I was expecting, but I think it's good. I think this good mini series is still intact for now, unless we dramatically disagree on Aloha Scooby-Doo. But I think it's your turn to kind of, or is it my turn? I think it's your turn to give me a rundown of what
See,
your thoughts on this is.
I didn't think Aloha was bad. I just quite liked it because it was
I
more
want to put it
summer
in How
themed.
Groovy.
Yeah, yeah, how yeah, because there was nothing wrong with it. To be fair, it was a nice summer vibe movie. Same with what the Pirates Ahoy. Very great summer movie. Very
I
great.
don't think we will agree on the placing here, but I am very tempted to put Aloha just below Alien Invaders. I watch it so much. I don't know, it's just fun. The music, the setting, like
Above or below?
just below Alien Invaders.
Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, yeah.
And as a Daphne fan, I think it's one of the best. Although she should have won that competition at the end. She should
Yeah.
have won the surfing competition. If she won that surfing competition, I would put it in Ultra
I think
instead.
I think that's why they didn't want to make her win because the audience knew from the start, okay, Daphne's going to win because it's the gang. But then they had the show. Oh, sometimes they don't win everything.
Yeah, she got robbed. She got robbed. But I guess that brings us on to Scooby-Doo in Where's My Mummy, which is one that I'll kind of give a
I
rundown
love
on.
this one. I
This
love
is an
this one.
interesting one for me because I feel like it's a lot like how you think about Loch Ness in that I feel like they did it already in an episode, but
Yeah,
more than that, they did it pretty much like not word by word or play by play, but there's a lot of parallels between this movie and an episode of What's New Scooby Doo. I even think it was written by the same people. So that's crazy how that happened, but I don't take it away from this too much. I
yeah.
like this one a lot. I love that Amelia Bonvutch character. Like, I think she's really cool. And the twist that it's like Velma, like I like this one a lot, you know. I don't like it quite as much as Aloha,
It
but I
had
would be happy
Tomb
with
Raider
it
vibes in it.
anywhere below. Like I like this one a lot.
It had a lot of Tomb Raider vibes. I really love the soundtrack. I definitely do believe the chasing music was by far the best because the big character with machete took me by surprise. So I wasn't expecting to see a machete. in the Scooby-Doo one. I was like, okay, there's no guns. Hasn't been many guns in a long time. Guy pulls up a shed, he goes, there won't be undead for long. Like, the most badass line ever. I was like, he spanned that around. I was like, oh my god, he has to be like, oh, the coolest cat that ever introduced to that show. I was like, even though he got captured, I don't care. It was badass. Because even if you're in a costume, I'm like, that guy's got a machete. Fuck that. I'm going.
Just running to the hill. Like,
I didn't
Jesus.
sign up for that. And then the shit, I don't know, but I loved it so much. I thought, oh, but they did a very fantastic job adding the humor and also adding a bit of, badass in there with the machete. I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. Like the farmer from Space King with the shotgun. I completely forget that they used to have like shotguns and that in there. It's just like it took me by surprise when I saw the machete. I thought, I didn't think they were actually going to do that because normally now they try to censor most of that stuff out. I thought I think after that they didn't do no more stuff like that. I think that was it. I think Where's My Mummy had like the exception.
Yeah, I think there's a few guns on police police
Yeah,
officers, like in later ones, but just shooting at like walls and stuff. Like I don't think there's anything on the level of whipping out knives, going like,
yeah,
come on, have some like. It's definitely good, and I'm nostalgic for this one.
and especially the
Oh,
ending took me by surprise.
which one do you prefer though? This one or Aloha? Because I think I personally prefer Aloha, but
Oh,
they're not too far off, you know.
that's a hard one to choose because I like them both. Can't they just sit at the same level?
That would be good.
Can't we just do that? I can't decide. On the one hand, I love watching Where's My Mummy, but then I love watching Aloha Scooby-Doo.
I guess one of the main questions is it below or above Ghoul School? Because that'll be the deciding factor.
Oh, nah. I think Ghoul School's a classic to my heart. I say it's below Ghoul School. I think Ghoul School sits at the top of A for being a gem.
So then I guess it has to go above Cyber Chase, quite obviously.
Yeah,
So between Cyber Chase and Ghoul School,
yeah.
I'm just gonna put Mummy. Okay, this is going good so far. Okay, so now the next one is Pirates Ahoy. So if you can kick me off with your thoughts on Pirates Ahoy.
Funny enough, with Ports Ahoy, I don't know if it's just me, but the pirate's ghost kind of looks like Moonscar.
Hmm.
Is it just me, or do you get the same
No,
vibe as
like
well?
I think even in the review we
Yeah,
did for it, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is like that guy."
I thought that's what they just ripped off Captain Moonscar at this point. They just stole and reused the character. I thought we weren't know. I was like, surely it can't be. I had to rewatch Zombie Island again. I was like, yeah, they stole the design because I got took it away. I was like, I'm going to see zombies next, in a way. But like, you got Fred standing there. I actually quite enjoyed it. I feel like pirates are my favorite things to look into. I feel like they're fascinating from the part of the Caribbean movies to the laws and that. Like, I could definitely get behind a nice pirate chase scene. If I had to pick any time period in history to try and look at, it'd be with pirates. 16th century, 14th century pirates. First thing you go with. And I feel like they did it such a good job. But is it better than Aloha? I don't think it is.
I don't think I feel it as much as
I
Aloha
don't
or Ghoul
feel.
School. Oh. See, I'm in that weird situation where I feel like it's a bit like Where's My Mummy, but in my heart, I think I prefer all the boat stuff and the pirate stuff to
Yeah,
desert in a way.
yeah, because it's a lot of hypnotism. That's the thing. Like they get hypnotized into becoming the crew, which I thought was great, and then using the billionaire to fund it all. But at the same time, it's like, where does it sit? It had a nice, creepy tone to it.
The fancy dress suit was good. The opening credits, I think, are some of my
Yeah,
favorite, like visually. It's so tricky. I think without a shadow of a doubt,
I
it's a
say
how groovy.
it has to be in How Groovy. where do we put it now? Creepy. That's the thing. It's like because then it's like it's on par with Where's My Mummy?
I think 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna watch Pirates Ahoy over Where's My Mummy.
I'm the same. I would always go to Where's My Mummy first, then Aloha. But with Pirates Ahoy, like I don't feel like it's better than Where's My Mummy. But at the same time, it's the third choice I go with out of them.
So
Even
could
though I
we
don't
put?
hate it, I still like it, but it's the third choice I would go with if I was watching those in order. But Where's My Mummy, then Aloha, then Pirates Ahoy.
So I wouldn't mind putting it just below Where's My Mummy, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a
I
quite
feel, I feel like it
nice
should
way to
be
put it.
suited right there. Because I think it's been quite even so far today. Three in A and three in B.
Yeah, and none in Swamp Gas, none in Ultra Instinct though. So we're
No,
gonna see, and we may have our first Scooby Don't soon. I don't know though. I don't know. It's difficult to say. But now we have. Oh, interesting.
we will eventually get to a Scooby-Doo. I
We
think we
have
all know
Chill
which one I will
Out.
put in that one.
Chill Out Scooby Doo to me is not one I go back to a lot. I kind of feel it's a bit bland. I like Yeti stuff. Again, I think, like you were saying, out of all the stuff that I like to
Yeah,
listen to in person, the amount of documentaries, podcasts, accounts, like mysterious deaths that have happened in like hiking expeditions that people think is Yetis, I love all that stuff. It's just I don't know about this movie. It seems like there's only really one real suspect, and it's the person that isn't around at the end. Like the only thing that I'll watch this back for now
it's just
is Alfred Molina's voice. I can't believe they got him in this movie. I think that's awesome.
because the thing is though, like when I watch that Scooby-Doo, it's bland. It's not. It's not like I would say there's no flavor or anything magical there. If I would say to someone, if you want to watch a good like snow mystery for Scooby Doo, go to Where Are You or the new Scooby Doo movies because they have Yeti creature monster mystery in
Yeah,
there,
you
which
got
is
the
10 times better.
Snow Ghost,
Snow Ghost, Snow
which could
Creature. It's
fly as well.
yeah,
Like,
way better than what we got in Scooby Doo, and then the Laurel and Hardy crossover with the new Scooby Doo movies. They had a Yeti in that. It worked, and I thought those were better than the chill out Scooby Doo. Like I don't, I'll be hand on heart. I don't watch Scooby Doo anymore. I
mm,
just fly over it because I don't
so,
really like it. I say if you want to watch First Glance goes, but will I ever go back to it? No. It's just I just can't. It's just it's not appealing. I feel like it's just a sham. It's just a cash grab. But like, how could we make another snow creature episode? Let's do a movie.
like I like the design of it a lot, just
The
not the
design's nice.
execution. I
The
like the
execution
stuff
was
they did
bad.
for McDonald's, that all that stuff I love. Even the suits that they put the gang in, it just seems like just a bland movie to the point where I either
Especially
want to put it
Velma
at
with
the very
extra layers
bottom
like Shrek.
of the mid story, or could it be a first Scooby Don't? I don't think it's bad. Like I wouldn't say
I'm not
don't
gonna say
watch
it's
this, you're
swamp
gonna have a bad
gas,
time.
but I'd say it's like it's not mediocre. It's on the I would say put it as C, but at the top of C, so it's closer to B. So it's not a complete don't watch, but it's a complete don't get your hopes up. You know, it's not going to be one of those things like, oh, I'm not going to get your hopes up about watching this. It's going to be okay. It's watchable, but you're not going to see something magical like Zombie Island or Witch's Ghost or something like that. It's just going to be, yeah,
So
it's like I've
where is
seen
that
it
then
before.
to you? Is that above Loch Ness, above Legend of the Vampire, above Reluctant Werewolf, or
No, so I would say probably put it at the very bottom of B, but closer to C. If that makes sense.
hmm.
So it's migrated in between the middle.
So which one is that in between? Sorry, which
So
movie?
the Scooby Don't. category, which is really like our first E, but it's at the very top. So I feel like two lines meeting, it's
Yeah.
in the middle of both C and B. So it's at the very,
To
very
the very top of Scooby-Doo, just below Boo Brothers.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
It's not a complete hogwash, but it's not something to get your hopes up about. It's not something I'm going to be, oh, guess what we're watching tonight? Chill out, Scooby Doo.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You put your
gonna go,
popcorn, yeah.
"Hey!" Like, so
if you're going to do a Scooby Doo marathon, you'd be like, right, Ahoy, let's skip over Chill Out Scooby Doo. Let's go straight to Goblin King.
ooh, and I think that's the next one, isn't it? Goblin King,
Yeah.
which is a polarizing one because I've heard people that absolutely hate this movie. They think it's a bit too silly, it goes a bit too far. But then I've also heard people that think that this is an absolutely legendary film, like maybe even to a lot of people, the last truly good Scooby-Doo movie. But we'll see. What's your overall take on Goblin King?
I remember I recently watched it. I think I did a review on it. I can't remember. I think I might have done. I've recorded a video on it, but I can't remember if I actually posted it or not. But I actually quite thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a very unique take for a Halloween type movie because I always question it when they do these box sets for Halloween and then they got films that don't have revolve anything around terrifying or Halloween bits. I feel like Goblin King is definitely a film to watch around Halloween for sure. It's definitely got
Yeah.
the magic in there of do two realms where you got, real and unrealistic possibilities with magic. And it definitely brings back vibes of Reluctant Werewolf, where it's more focused on Shaggy and Scooby as the main protagonists, and the rest of the gang are just collateral damage. Let's just say that for now. I feel like it was executed so well for two scaredy cats to go on a magical trip to face their fears in a way. But the only issue I had is that it wasn't long enough. I feel like they spent less time in the other world rather than exploring. Like they didn't spend enough time showing more stuff off, showing extra scenes. A lot of it felt fast forward where you cut to one scene to another, especially when they get captured to the point where they come at the end and they just say that they escaped. How? Did they do the classic Shaggy and Scooby or let's get out of Dodge moment where they do dress up and find an infinite wardrobe of clothes? How did they escape the tower? Okay, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but how did they escape? Well, that's probably the best bit I love watching about those two is that they can find any situation and get out of it because they have probably the most confidence out of the entire gang to pull off their schemes where they get into a robe and play doctors and fool the actual villains into believing them to the point where they can escape. And I feel like they messed up on that nice cliche. I still love it. I just wish I knew what actually happened when they got captured in a tower. Because there's no way. So you're telling me they escaped, saved the princess, saved the Goblin King, saved all the scepters by just magically walking out the front door. I don't buy it. They
I mean,
did
they did have
something.
those Daphne and Velma outfits that maybe they'd used to
No,
disguise themselves
no.
with.
So I thought that as well, but it actually ran out.
That was a good moment
Yeah,
there.
so
Like,
it got them so far to the point where it ran out, and then they had to wing it the rest of the way with the witches' brooms, and they got taken to the castle. But then you never really saw them how they escaped properly to get back into the real world to save the Goblin King. Which then, you get the ending of where the gang pretty much don't remember anything except Shaggy and Scooby. So all their brave endeavors, like all the heroic acts they've done, only they remember them, which I kind of feel like is like the douche move. Like, how dare you take that moment from them where this was their moment? And you kind of ruined it for them because they're the only ones that know all about it and no one's going to believe them. And it messes with their mind. Like, did this happen or were we just hallucinating?
I think I always take this one as canon, I always think a major plot hole is if the gang have unmasked countless villains, why is there any need for them to be scared when it comes to like the next one? Can't they just instantly
Yeah.
go, let's pull its mask off? But then I kind of think, well, if Shaggy and Scooby are the only two that remember that real ghosts exist, then it's logical that when they see
That's
another
good.
ghost come along, oh my gosh, this could be real again. So that's kind of my headcanon.
That's a really good one as well. I guess they could all five charge at the man in the costume.
Just like rugby
Solve
tackle.
his because Fred does rugby, tackle him down. They all pile on top of him, take off the mask. Right, mystery solved. On to the next town. It's one way to capture a ghost rather than spending half the episode looking for clues. And then Fred doing an impossible trap that pretty much should not work, defies the laws of physics around the world, and manage to capture the vote. They're going to tackle him to the ground, you know? Or
But
if
one
you
thing I love about this movie as well is the cast. Like, it has such a star-studded cast. You know, you've got my main definitive Mystery Inc., but Tim Curry as the Goblin King, iconic. Hayden Panettiere as the Fairy, iconic. You had Wallace Shawn in there as like a warlock, iconic. I think Krudsky was voiced by Wayne Knight from Jurassic Park, iconic. Like, there's so much to enjoy in this. Like, in terms of that spectrum that I spoke about, in terms of love and hate, I think I'm definitely on the love category for this one. I just don't know where to put it because I don't have a lot of nostalgia for it because it's one that I saw quite recently. But I want to put it, and this is what my heart says. You can tell me if you disagree. See, I'm almost tempted to put this ahead, but my heart is telling me above Ghoul School, below Aloha. But again, maybe I even want to put it above Aloha. I don't know.
I say it's slightly above Aloha.
I wouldn't mind that,
It's
you know.
definitely up there in the A category.
Is
But
it
I want
above
to
Alien Invaders? I feel like in my heart it could be.
because they both got real like they're both realistic. Aliens had real aliens. The Goblin King magic, the Goblin King himself, fairies. It definitely had the magical vibe that shows two worlds. Mm. See, I want to put it above Alien Invaders because of how they broke Shaggy's heart.
Yeah. Oh, see,
Towards the
this one
end.
kind of ended a bit badly though, in
Oh.
terms of, but at least then it's got that headcanon element. I think it ends better than Alien Invaders, which is why I'm tempted to put it
Yeah,
above Alien Invaders.
ends a lot better because it gives them the confidence that they can go to the other world, face creepy monsters, a bit like SpongeBob and Patrick in the SpongeBob SquarePants
Oh yeah, when they
movie.
get the mustache.
Yeah, the mustache builds a
Now
lot of
that we're
confidence,
men.
and they face now that the men they can cross the reef for all the scary monsters to get the trident, like build up the confidence.
See, I like that. That's going to be very controversial, though, I think. But I don't think we care.
I can understand why people don't like it. If you take it from what they're saying, like, okay, it's so unbelievable to happen, but then Scooby-Doo was known for having the dark tone and the supernatural in there. That was always going to be his gimmick. It's why Zombie Island did so well. It's why I love Zombie Island because it definitely was probably the best dark tone supernatural movie they've ever produced, and I don't think nothing will ever top it because it was done so right. It's how you do that was at the time of all the popular zombie movies. So it was definitely at the biggest hype. It was real. If you try and do it now, there's no love for zombie movies except for The Walking Dead, but it's not as popular as it was when it first came out, so it's not going to get the same vibe. So I feel like you have to. Some of it comes down to what's out at the moment, and that makes sense. When Goblin King came out, there was nothing on par with it to relate to. There's nothing to reference it. All you had was, two worlds that on polar opposites that don't align with each other.
The
One's
only
got the
thing that it's a
magical.
little bit comparable to, funnily enough, is probably like
Yeah,
Halloween Town, if you've seen that.
I don't think I have. No.
It's dead old. It's a Disney one, but it's a bit like that. But I like it a lot. But I do get why people think it's a bit too out there. It's just I'm a very wacky person, and I think when we get on to some of the other categories, like the second live actions introduced, I think I'm going to be agitating the gravel quite a bit when it comes to all of this. But the last one, I guess from the What's New era, is the samurai sword. And I'm just gonna be honest. I never really liked the samurai sword. Like I like the premise more than a lot of others that like you'd think that this is instantly my movie. You've got Daphne going to a karate fighting competition. It's a Daphne movie and it's going to be set in, Japan. That sounds like something I would be well into.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like somewhere along the lines Daphne gets sidelined and it becomes more of what are Shaggy and Scooby going to be doing in this setting, which is understandable. I guess they're the most popular, but with the way it was set up and how it ends with like Scooby defeating like the Black Samurai, it's a bit like I don't quite know if it was set up like this. I'm disappointed because I was excited because I thought I was going to get one
I
thing,
feel like Shaggy and
but
Scooby stole the spotlight from Daphne for sure, but I don't think they meant to. I feel like they were at the
mm,
wrong place at the wrong time because that's what they're known for. They're always at the wrong place at the right time where they hate it, but they're needed. You know. But probably my favorite scene I love from that one is the sumo fight because we saw I just I love that scene because it's like that's what their true size is. If you take out what they eat, that's what they should look like. And I feel like they show that like they show that there for that split second their true form. I'm like
mm.
this is their true form when they go 100% out at each other. It's a sumo fight, and then they just revert back to their skinny forms. So that all that food they store is for that. And I'm just like that's probably the best scene I've seen because they definitely do steal it because when people talk about the samurai sword, it's mostly sumo scene. It's the most played scene if you search on YouTube for that category. Out of all the scenes that they put up there, most people watch that.
I also love the jetpack scene and the music because
The
the thing is
music's
that
really good.
they
The intro
use
music,
unusual music as far as you would expect them to be blasting out stereotypical, almost what was then before, pre K-pop era stuff. But they actually used like kind of accurate song, like those kind of pop songs, like the almost like the one from Monsters Unleashed, and I like it a lot. And oh gosh, like this one, and here's the one thing I'll say about Chill Out as well as this one. I think these are our last couple of Casey Kasem movies, but there's moments in both of these where he delivers a line of dialogue in a way where you can just tell how happy he is voicing the role. And I look back at these, maybe for nothing else, but just I really do miss Casey Kasem sometimes. For all Matthew Lillard's iconic, I look back at these last two, and I'm glad he gave a good performance to kind of round out his like time as Shaggy on because he is a phenomenal Shaggy.
because he's I think because Samurai Sword was the last one, wasn't it?
I think so.
I think it was the last one. I think Abracadabra Do was
Yeah, that was
took it
Matthew
over.
Lillard's first.
Yeah, Matthew's first. So I think he ended on a good high note because I think Samurai Sword was probably the best respect you could probably, you know, send them off in, especially how well they did that movie, presenting wise, especially when it comes to Japanese like culture and samurai, and they take all that stuff very personal. So there was no backlash from it, which was good. Whereas I think Monster Mexico got some backlash for it.
Yeah, and that's a shame because that was literally the last time we had
Yeah.
Nicole Jaffe as
But
Velma, Heather
Samurai
North,
Sword didn't get
Daphne.
no backlash. So I feel like they actually made sure to keep the culture as sacred as possible without actually changing it. I think seeing Scooby in like a samurai sword is pretty epic because it's like what was it? The Dark Samurai kind of reminds me of the samurai from Cyber Chase. Just that brief episode where Daphne defeats the samurai. This was probably her redemption arc, really, to face samurai. Defeat it in the video game. Could she defeat it in real life? Nope. Scooby takes the victory.
Well, it's a shame because that was the showdown I really wanted. But yeah, I don't know.
One day she get her revenge.
I don't mind putting this wherever really. It's not one that I'm particularly invested in. Um,
Good.
I don't know. I don't see myself ever watching this one again. But I don't know where to put it then because I don't think it's better than a lot of these. Like, I think it's better than Boo Brothers. I think it's better technically than Monster of Mexico, but I have more fun watching Monster of Mexico. Like, same with a lot of them in the mid category. Like, I think it's technically better than a lot of them, but I just feel like I have a lot more fun watching some of those versus this one.
So do you want to put this in the B category?
In my absolute, in my truth, I would be happy putting it just above Boo Brothers, but
Just
I don't know
above.
how much that would mess with you.
I would say above Brew Brothers because it's not the worst movie. It's still fun to watch. I think it fits right having it just above Boo Brothers.
Okay. So that does us for another day. I mean, how do you feel about this trailer so far? How do you feel like it's shaping up?
I think it's going quite well. We've only had one in technically the 50% in the C range. I don't think we're going to see a lot in the C range, but I think majority of them will be in the B category because what is it? There's like 37 Scooby-Doo movies. I want to say 20 are going to be in the B category on
Yeah.
average. Because
Because you got Ultra Instinct as S, which is so difficult to do.
yeah,
Then
because
A, how groovy.
I think Ultra Instinct has to be perfect where there's nothing really wrong with it, where you can watch it countless of times and not get bored. Because sometimes when I watch Scooby Doo movies, if it's the same one that I don't really feel much love for, like it's like mediocre, I won't watch it as much as I should. So, but I'll be watching it now and then, but that's about it. Whereas many stuff in like How Groovy I can watch more frequent, but S is something I watch so much I don't really need to watch it because it's all built into memory. So Zombie Island, I've seen that so many times as a kid on VHS, DVD. Like I know that film off by heart. When I did my review, I didn't need to watch it because I lived it my childhood watching it.
I agree. I mean, I do think this is shaping up quite nicely. I think it's going to be so interesting because I suspect that now that I've actually figured out how to do tier lists, I'm probably going to be roped into doing a few more. So I'm going to be very curious to see where I'm at in terms of different versions. But this one I'm so excited to do and to complete because I think there's some good ones coming up as well. And then, of course, you've got the live actions and everything. So there's definitely some interesting stuff coming up.
Because I know eventually when we get to close to the end, I know Zombie Return to Zombie Island is going to be swamp gas for me. I've already pre-planned it now. I just know it's swamp gas because it's terrible. But
I mean, really, the
it all
name
comes
Swamp Gas was inspired by that. Like, it's
but
pretty much its
it's like
home.
it all comes down to your vote on that movie.
The Swamp Gas, but the Swamp Gas, it's literally named after that movie's awful mistake. So
Yeah.
we could almost pre-put it in there now, but I guess that will all be for another time. Thank you so much again for joining, and thank you for everyone for watching. Part 3 coming up sometime, so hopefully do stick around for that. Eventually, I'm going to put it all in a playlist so people can watch the whole tier list ranking. But until that point, Mark, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on my YouTube page or on my Twitter or for social media, which is at iGosLuigi or at Mark Marsh 94 for Instagram.
Incredible. I'll leave that linked in the description down below. Thank you so much to everyone for watching. And if you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.